Phil Kasper joining you on the Front Porch. Welcome to the show, and like to welcome in Karen Medlin from Manhattan, Kansas. Karen, thanks for joining me on the Front Porch today.
Well, thank you, Phil.
It's a pleasure to have you, Karen, and it's a kind of a roundabout way where we got here. I'll give you a little bit of an introduction to Karen, and we are going to get into so much to talk to. Karen is the owner of West Loop Floral in Manhattan, and we're going to talk about flowers some, Karen. But you are also a bail bonds agent, which really caught my attention. And Karen, I guess, first of all, and I don't want to get into it too much in this segment, but how does a florist get into the bail bond business?
Well, it's interesting, Phil, and I get that question a lot. People will say, you're a florist and a bail bonds agent? How do those two go together? And I laugh and tell them, well, people buy flowers when they're in trouble. People call me to bond them out of jail when they're in trouble. So I always laugh and tell the guys, I love those bad boys. They keep me in business. So we laugh about that a lot. But, really there is no connection, I guess, other than the fact that I really enjoy working with people, and both jobs are very interesting. You get to know people. They tell you a lot of things about themselves, about their families. They just a lot of times want somebody to talk to, and it's just a good chance for them to open up to you, get close to you, and it's interesting on both jobs.
Well, and I can see how they would parallel each other when you put it like that. You love those bad boys and guys that are in trouble walking in to buy flowers, and guys and girls that are in trouble to get you to help them out of jail. But Karen, I want to back up just a little bit. Born and raised in Manhattan, lifelong resident of Manhattan. Talk about growing up and your background a little bit.
Okay, yeah. I've lived in Manhattan all my life. Manhattan is a great town, a great community, has wonderful people, and I think more and more people are finding that out because we're growing rapidly. And I have family here in the area and extended family. It's just a great place to be, I think. And I grew up going to school in Manhattan. I attended grade school, high school, and K-State, and just stuck around because I liked it here.
Well, it is a great town, and anybody that has not been to Manhattan, you're really missing out with Kansas State University and all that's going on there. But it's a lot of times it's really odd to find somebody that goes all through school, goes to college, and then ends up in business in Manhattan. But you did choose to do that when you were, I guess, in school. Was there a floral background? How did you get involved in the floral business with West Loop Floral?
Well, I have always loved flowers, and in fact, I laugh. When I was a kid, I used to try to talk my little brother into picking the neighbor's flowers for me because I didn't want to get caught, and he was cool enough that he'd think it was okay. So I think my love for flowers started a long time ago, and after I got out of school, I went to work at Fort Riley for a few years, and I always had wished to be in business. My family been in business, and I had a friend who was in the floral business in Clay Center, in fact, and she encouraged me to start a flower shop. She kept saying, just do it, just do it. You'll love it. So I reached a point in my life where I felt like I could pursue that interest. And so I got started. I went to floral school in Lawrence, and just, you get out thinking you know something about it, and you get in business and figure out there are a lot of things that you didn't know about it, but a lot of things you do. People are very nice and very supportive, I think, of new businesses, and especially at that time, women in business was not as common as it is today. And I had some people who really kind of took me under their wing and, wanted to help. And things just got off to a good start. And I had a lot of support from family and friends, and it just took off and worked real well. I've enjoyed the floral business a lot. I've made a lot of good friends. We have had a state organization that was very active, and the floral business changed a lot over the years, and so we don't have some of the things that we used to have, as far as organizations and stuff like that go. But I was very active in that, and that's always real helpful, when you're starting out in the business and when you've been in it even for a long time, because there's always new ideas, people that you can commiserate with, whatever. And so I just had wanted to be in business for so long. And it was a great opportunity, and I got a lot of people to thank for helping me to get going in that.
Well, and it's a 30-plus year business doesn't happen by accident, Karen, and you've obviously been doing something right in the community of Manhattan. Are you involved outside of the flower shop in the community of Manhattan? Have you been able to get involved in other organizations as well?
I have, yes, and it's been almost 40 years, I think, that I've been in business. So it's been a long time. I have served on boards and committees, and I just feel like, when a community supports a business, that it's good if that business can give back to the community. And I've been in several organizations that are community or that give to the community.
Right.
And I think that gives you a good feeling too, when you can give back to the community. Well, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that. And I have searched for things. I would say probably there are so many opportunities to do that. I'm a member of Kiwanis right now. I was in Sertoma. I've been on the hospital auxiliary board, the United Way board, just a lot of different things. And I feel like, we need to give back to those who give to us. So,
well, you've done a great job with that, obviously, Karen. I mean, it's again a 40-plus year. What year did West Loop Floral open?
We opened in 81, so actually
81,
we're in our
wow.
40th year. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So into the 40th year of business, and again, you mentioned briefly that when you went into business in 1981, women in business, not a common thing, I guess, at that time, and it's come a long ways in 40 years, and I think that, women like yourself that open up that business, you set a standard for other women to look at and say, we can be successful, and you have. What would you attribute that success to yourself? I mean, obviously you've had great employees over the years as well.
Oh, very good employees, yes. There's no way I could have done it without some super employees. I think you have to be ambitious. You have to have a drive. You have to want to do it so bad that you'll make sacrifices to do what you have to do. When I got into the business, I was married. I didn't have any children yet, and so I had a lot of time I could devote to promoting the business. And then I guess about 3 years after I was in the business, I had 2 kids all of a sudden. And so that changes things a lot. I used to laugh. I lived in Riley at the time. And, even though I grew up in Manhattan and I've lived in Riley County the whole time, I would laugh and say, well, I live in Manhattan, but I sleep in Riley, because it would get to that point a lot of times where, it just requires so much time and everything. And my husband, when the kids got a little older, would pick them up and bring them into town a lot of evenings, and we'd grab a bite to eat somewhere and go home. But, it's a family affair, really, when you're in business. And I had grown up that way. My parents were in business and had a lot of family members in business. And so I guess it kind of gets in your blood, You like that way of life, and it is very, very demanding, and you do have to make sacrifices. But I think everybody gets involved and just pitches in and does what needs to be done and makes it work.
Again, visiting with Karen Medlin. Karen is the owner of West Loop Floral in Manhattan, also a bail bonds agent. Yes, you heard that right, a florist and a bail bonds agent. And we're going to get into that in depth as we continue on the Front Porch. Back on the Front Porch with Karen Medlin, owner of West Loop Floral and Gatsche's Bail Bonds by Karen. That's right, a florist and a bail bonds woman, which is interesting in itself. But Karen, in that first part, we talked about the floral business 40 years now. 1981 is when West Loop Floral opened up. And during that time, newly married, now you've got 2 kids trying to juggle the family and the business in the early 80s. Karen, how'd you get that done?
Well, it took a lot of effort on everybody's part, I'll tell you. We got family members involved. My mom, my husband's mom were great to take care of the kids when I needed them to. And somehow, you just get through all this. Both our families, my family and my husband's family, were in business, had been in business. And so these grandmas understood that things are not on a rigid schedule, and you never know what's going to happen when, and you have to be pretty flexible. So if I would get stuck working late, or Neil would or something, both grandmas would jump in whenever we needed them and go pick the kids up from the babysitter and feed them supper if they needed to, and just, do whatever. We had friends and neighbors and stuff who would help us in any way they could, and people just seemed to, come together and like to help you, and so it was just a family affair, really.
Well, it's a lot of time, starting a business. Anybody can tell you that, whether they've started a business or not, but particularly if they have. But those early days of starting a business, that's tough enough, Karen. And then with the kids and everything else going on, but you did get it done. And I'm assuming, again, I'm going to go back to employees, some good employees in those early days, or were you by yourself a lot?
Oh, no. I had some very good employees from the beginning. I was fortunate enough to be able to hire some people who knew what they were doing, and if they didn't, they would do whatever they could to figure it out. We just all worked together as a team, and we just had a great time. I feel like in a business like this, a small business, you have to have fun. As we got the work done, and we were good about that. but we have to make it fun too for people. And so we had some good times. I remember I like to do crafts and things like that before I got into the floral business. And so I would watch for classes. I did some painting, some calligraphy, some cake decorating. I mean, if there was a class out there, I was going to figure out how I could take it. And one of those classes, I was talking to one of the ladies, and she said, "Oh, my gosh, a woman in business, I just really am excited for you." She said, "I will support you all I can." And we got to be friends. And to this day, that lady has been a very, very good customer, she and her husband. And every once in a while we'll say, "Remember when we took that class together and I said I was behind you all the way?" And it's people like that, who really, really make it enjoyable and worthwhile. And you don't forget things like that. So, you have all kinds of supporters, and some you don't even know about. But I think, women were in business at that time, but it wasn't as common as it is today. And so, you appreciated all the help and support that you got from family and community and everybody.
Well, Karen, you did get through that. You did get the kids grown, and I had asked you off the air about your kids, and both of your kids still in the area, and now some grandkids involved as well.
Yes, I have a son and a daughter, and they both live in Manhattan. And my daughter is married and has 3 kids, and they are 1, 6, and 11. So some interesting ages,
Yeah.
A wide variety of responsibility there. And that's a lot of fun to have kids close around like that. We get to do a lot of things together, and my daughter is in business also, and so she has a lot of demands on her, and I try to help her when I can. That's a little difficult sometimes because I'm involved in things, but we make it work. And she has a good husband who helps out a lot, and good kids. And I have a son who's not married and no kids, so he can help too. So we make it all work for everybody, and I'm just so thankful that they're close around here where I can enjoy them.
Well, obviously you made an impact on your daughter as well, as she has gone into the business world too. Karen, I want to back up a little bit. Prior to being at West Loop Floral and opening that up, you had mentioned you worked at Fort Riley. And before we get into the bail bonds business, I want to talk about that a little bit, because your job at Fort Riley may have sparked the interest to what you're doing now along with the florist. Talk about what you were doing at Fort Riley prior to West Loop Floral.
Okay. Yeah, I think it did, Phil. I did, some different things when I started at Fort Riley. I was in personnel pretty much the whole time, but military personnel. But the last job I had was supervisor manager at the retraining brigade. The retraining brigade was in Camp Funston, and it was kind of an experimental program for the Army. It was very interesting, and it's no longer there. It went by different names over the years, and it wasn't there for too many years, but it was the retraining brigade, USERB, I don't remember what else. But basically what we did was try to restore troops to duty. If a young soldier had gotten into trouble and was court-martialed, this way I remember it now, he was sent to Fort Leavenworth, if I recall, if he had a sentence of more than 6 months. If his sentence was less than 6 months, he had an opportunity to go through the program at the retraining brigade and return to duty if he successfully completed the training. So we had six units, whatever, behind the wire, we said. You know, they were confined. They were locked up. And they went through rigorous training and tried to, they made better soldiers out of them and returned them to duty. If they were unable to successfully complete this program, they were released from the Army. They were discharged. And so there were a lot of them. Most of them returned to duty, I think. And it was just very interesting. You met people from all walks of life, and we would interview these people when they came up to our office, for certain things to do with their records and stuff. And so it was just interesting to me to see how the program worked and how they turned these people around and made successes out of them instead of, failures. And so I think that got me interested in things like this, the bail bonds industry and everything.
So obviously that the things that you saw with the soldiers that were through that retraining brigade, the soldiers that do decide to go into it with a positive attitude, I think you get close to and you get to know a little bit about them. And I obviously that stuck with you through the years, correct?
Yes, that's right. And the officers and NCOs, everything, who were providing this training and everything for these soldiers, we got to know them, and they would tell us interesting stories and stuff, and it was just very interesting to see how all this worked and how they helped get these guys back in the right frame of mind and wanting to do the right thing and make something of themselves and everything. And I think it just really made me interested in something like that.
Again, talking with Karen Medlin. Karen is a florist, owner and operator of West Loop Floral, and a bail bonds agent, which we'll get into more of on the Front Porch. Back on the Front Porch, I'm your host, Phil Kasper, joined by Karen Medlin. We've been talking with Karen about her floral business, West Loop Floral, in Manhattan, Kansas. We talked about the family involvement, women in business in the early 80s, which I know was a challenge as well. And then prior to that, working at Fort Riley in a retraining brigade to where Karen would assist soldiers that had gotten in trouble and then working them back into their unit. And Karen, that sparked an interest in that, I guess, type of world to where you can help people, which led to you becoming a bail bondsman. I need to know, where did that come from? Where did you get the idea that hey, I can do this, I can write bail and sell flowers at the same time?
Well, I don't really know. People ask me that, and I'm kind of stuck for an answer, Phil. But I remember thinking about that and thinking, oh, gosh, what does bail bond agent do? And I kind of looked into it a little bit, and then I saw an ad in the paper one night, and I thought, my kids were grown and everything, and I thought, well, I always like to keep real busy, and I always think I can do everything. And usually it works out pretty well. But I thought, that's something I can do, because that's not a job where you have to go sit and do something. It's kind of an on-call type thing, and I think I have good people working for me. At the time, who can handle things if I need to go write a bond or something. And a lot of it's in the night. You get calls in the middle of the night. So I looked into it, and it was funny because the guy that I went to work for at first interviewed me. He came from out of town, and he said, "No, I don't think you can do this." He said, "You're not the type to do this," and that really made me want to do it. If somebody tells me I can't do something, by golly, I'm going to show them I can do it. Anyway, he said, "Nah, I don't think so." And I thought, because I'm not grizzly and gruff enough looking. I think that's what kind of backed him up a little bit. But anyway, and not that Phil Bonson are like that, but I think he just thought, not the one I'm looking for. So I called him back later and said, I'm still interested. I really would like to do this. And I thought, I've been in this town, this community forever. I know lots of people and everything. So I finally convinced him to hire me. And it worked out real well. I started writing a lot of bonds right in the beginning. And he would call me and say, I sent you paperwork, for this or that. You can't have used all that already. We have power of attorney forms that we use, and they're very regulated. And he'd say, I just don't think that you've written all these. And, sure enough, I was. So we got off to kind of a crazy start. But anyway, I worked for him for a while. And then I had an opportunity to go to work for Gatsche Bonds, a local company. So I did that, and that worked out real well. I think part of the deal with the bail bonds thing is that I know so many people around here, and, people refer other people to someone they know. And I have a lot of people who say, "Oh, well, you had bonded so-and-so out, and they told me to call you, that you took good care of them and everything." And then I have what I call my frequent flyers, people who have used me before in the past.
Repeat customers, Karen. Repeat customers.
That's right. And they'll call and say, "This is, whoever, and I need your help." So we always get a good chuckle at everything. I like to, make these people feel at ease and everything. I think, it can be a real stressful time for them. And a lot of them are first-timers and don't really know what to do. And so I think, it's up to us, the bail bondsmen, to help them as much as we can, help them understand how the process works and everything. And so it's just a real people job.
Well, Karen, I guess a question, and I and you know what a bail bondsman is, know what a bail bonds agent does. What does a bail bonds agent do? What is your job?
Well, we provide a written agreement to the court to pay the bail in full if the defendants, who we're bonding out, if they do not appear in court. So when we bond somebody out, we are writing insurance. We're saying this person is going to be in court each and every time they're supposed to be. And as long as they go to court when they're supposed to, everything's fine. If that person fails to appear in court, then the court notifies us, and it's up to us to find them and return them, to court. If they just totally take off and we can't find them, the judge can order the bond forfeited, and then we, as the agent, have to pay that bond, in full. So we get cosigners usually, to guarantee that, and that person is, they're going to make sure that person gets to court and everything. So if we can't find the defendant, we hire a bounty hunter, and we have a couple of them who work for us now who are very good, and that bounty hunter tracks them down and picks them up and brings them back to justice. They have a warrant then, for failure to appear, so we have to go through the process. They book them back into jail, and we get the whole process started again to get them back to court. And usually we get a lot of good information on these people. When we write the bond, we don't just say, oh, yeah, we'll bond you out. What's your name, and address. I visit with these people and get to know them, and I want to feel good about writing this bond, because if something does happen and we have to look for them, I need to know, where to look for them and what we're into and everything. So it's a process that we go through, and I get to know these people a lot of times. I'll visit with them. I'll visit with their cosigner, and I think we establish a rapport. We feel like we know each other. It's not unusual at all wherever I go to see somebody that I bonded out or something, in the grocery store, just about every drive-through I go to in town, I have people, who will stick their head out and go, Karen, hey, Karen, remember me? And I do. And, it's just nice to have that relationship with somebody. And they're going to refer other people to me. And I like being able to help people like that. And we usually talk about, what they have to look forward to, as far as court and everything. And a lot of times we'll get into personal matters, family matters and stuff. They want to have somebody that they feel comfortable with and that they are okay telling you things. I'm not going to go tell anybody, so-and-so said this or that. It's confidential, and it puts them at ease, I think, and you just want that relationship with these people. And so I kind of got off the track there, but we are basically putting up the money to get these people out of jail,
So, Karen, what does it? You mentioned that you are basically providing the insurance to the court that this person is going to show up to court. What kind of training did you have to go through to get your license to be a bail bond agent?
Well, I've taken classes, and they require us now to do an 8-hour class each year, to keep up on what's going on and everything. We have the continuing education that we have to do each year. So, and then reading and talking to other bondsmen, and, there are different organizations and stuff, that provide education, and just getting out there and doing things and reading. There's a lot of things involved with this that people don't realize. We don't just go down there and say, okay, we're going to post this bond. There's a lot lot of behind the scenes. We also have, we provide a service the company I work for does, where we call the people and remind them, when they have court and, if there's something they need to do. So we try to help these people as much as we can do what they need to do. Because sometimes they'll say, oh, I forgot that I had court, or I didn't know I had to be there then. Well, it's very, very important, and we stress that to them that, I've got a gal right now who's coming back from out of state because she has court this afternoon, and she's had a couple flights canceled and everything, and she's real nervous about getting back here on time for court today. And so I've been trying to help her, get in contact with the right people and everything, and let them know what's going on. And so, we do everything we can to keep these people on track and get things taken care of.
So a lot more involved than I think what the public knew, which is what we're getting to here and what we're finding out. Karen, we're at a good point to take a break again. Again, when we come back, we're going to hear a lot more about Karen's bail bonds business. Again, talking on the front porch today with Karen Medlin, owner of West Loop Floral in Manhattan and a bail bonds agent. Back on the front porch today, I'm your host, Phil Kasper, talking with Karen Medlin, owner of West Loop Floral in Manhattan, Kansas, and Gatsche's Bail Bonds by Karen. She is a bail bonds agent. And Karen, in that last part, we were talking a little bit about, you mentioned bounty hunters, and then we kind of moved on. And I had a question written down, what happens when someone skips bail? There's several things that can happen. Let's talk about that a little bit. And I know, first of all, if you can handle it, you try to handle it yourself.
That's right. Yes. And, some people just plain forget about it or get dates mixed up or something, and we can help them take care of that. That's what we like to do. So when we find out that somebody has missed their court date, we call them and tell them that they missed their court date and we need to get them back in court. If we can work something out, we do. And most of them, just plain forgot or got mixed up. So we make arrangements for them to get back in court then, or if there's already been a warrant issued for them, they may have to go to jail and bond out again, and we work with them on that. But sometimes we've got people who are intentionally missing court and I guess just don't want to face the music or whatever. So we have to track them down and get them back. If it gets to be, a little involved or a little crazy or something, we have bounty hunters that we use. And bounty hunters are not like you see on TV, especially, everybody isn't Dog the Bounty Hunter.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
My gosh, yeah. I have people all the time who will say, well, what's it take to be a bounty hunter? Well, I think that'd be fun. I'd like to be a bounty hunter. Well, it's not that easy. You have to be licensed now. It didn't used to have to be, but they changed that law a while back. And so we send the bounty hunter after these people then to track them down and get them back to court. And it's interesting. There are some very interesting stories. And I've been involved in a few things myself where you think, oh, my gosh, this is crazy. But anyway, bounty hunters can do several things to get these people apprehended. And one of the things, if they have reason to believe that that person is in somewhere and they won't come out or whatever, they can kick a door in, they can do whatever it takes to get that person picked up. Whereas the police have to have a search warrant and everything, so bounty hunters have more freedom to pick somebody up that way. But anyway, it's interesting. Sometimes people are hiding out. Sometimes they just, we'll have people who have taken off, and gone to some other state. And so it's not easy to apprehend everybody, but, it's our job to get them picked up and brought back to court.
Now we talked a little bit. Sorry about that. We talked a little bit about the bail amounts, and skipping bail. And I had mentioned off the air, the bail amount is set $100,000, and you go in to write the bond. What does that person have to pay you in order to get that bond?
Okay. What bondsmen charge to write a bond is 10% of the bond amount. So if somebody has, say, for example, a $10,000 bond, it would be $1,000 to write the bond. And then we require cosigners usually, so that we have somebody who's responsible for that person, to keep track of them and make sure they get to court and everything. And we have backup if they don't do that. So if somebody does not appear in court, we go through the process of trying to get a hold of them. We call the cosigner and say, this person did not appear in court. We've got to find them. Or if the bond has to be forfeited, if the judge orders the bond forfeited, the cosigner is responsible too for that. So, that keeps them interested in finding this person. So that's a good thing.
So then that falls back, the full amount being due, that falls back on not only the bond company, but the cosigner as well.
Yes, and we are ultimately responsible for that. If we couldn't, get the person picked up, couldn't get the money or anything, we have insured that person. We have said, they will be in court or we will forfeit the bond. So, we have to find that person and get them back to court or pay the bond.
Now you mentioned that when you're writing a bond with somebody, you've had a lot of unique offers from people on how to pay this bond. One that you had told me off the air was the winning lottery ticket, and people will come up with any excuse to figure out how to pay you. Talk about that a little bit.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have a young man who recently called me and said that he wanted to get out of jail. His bond was, I don't know, it was, like around $50,000 or something, and he didn't have all the money, but he had a winning lottery ticket, and if I could just come and get him out of jail and take him to Topeka to collect that money, then he could pay me. And I said, well, it doesn't work exactly like that. I said, you pay me the money, then I get you out of jail, and then you can go cash your ticket in or whatever. Well, no, but, this is the winner. It says right on the ticket it is. So, all you have to do is take me to Topeka to get the money. And I'd like to do that, but that's not how we do it. So
doesn't work quite like that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Or, they'll try to bargain with you on, well, I have a car title, or I have this or that, or I have some jewelry that I know is worth a lot of money. But, and I think years ago, the collateral, the jewelry and cars and stuff like that worked. The bondsman would work with people with collateral like that. But anymore, we're not able to do that so much. I would hesitate to to take much of anything, because how do I know it's not stolen or something?
Sure.
I could be in trouble too. So we try to keep it the way it is now, with just cosigners and bonding out the people that we think are going to do what they're supposed to do. And I interview the people when I'm going to bond them out and get a feel for what kind of person they are, if I think they are going to show up in court, or if I think they're going to just get out and run, or what. I get good information if they would happen to take off. I've got contacts and stuff. So, we've got to be really careful about what we do, who we bond, and everything. So it's not just an automatic thing. You call and say you want to bond out, and we go, okay, sure, do you have the money? So there's a lot more that goes into it than people realize.
Well, and I think that takes me right into my next question, and kind of the way I wanted to end things. Unfortunately, this takes me clear back to your days at Fort Riley, early days in business in the early 80s. I think it just all evolves. You have been around people so much in your life, and you learn to read people. With your job at Fort Riley, you learn to read people in business, and now that has carried over into the bail bond industry. And I know not everybody that calls you gets bonded out, but you're able to sit with these people and figure it out pretty quickly what kind of person this is. And the other point I want to make, Karen, we talked about it off the air. When you're dealing with these people, they are a lot of times at the lowest point in their life, and I know you go into this wanting to help them.
Yes, I do. I really, really want to help people. And I want, there's a lot of people who just don't have anybody to talk to, and they need help, they want help, and I try to help people like that. I see people all the time that I've bonded out and stuff, and they don't forget things like that. If you have helped them, or helped a friend of theirs, whatever, they really appreciate it. They're very loyal to you, and that's what we want is to help people. And you can't help everybody, but you sure help a lot of people. Well,
Karen, and you have certainly helped a lot of people throughout your life, and a great example of a person wanting to help their fellow man, and also a great example of a woman in business, very successful business, and I know you've got a couple of kids that you've set the example for, and a great example. And Karen, I've really enjoyed talking to you and enjoyed getting to know you.
Oh, Phil, it's been great talking to you. I've enjoyed this time, and I'll look forward to talking to you again sometime. Again,
that's been On the Front Porch with Karen Medlin, owner-operator of West Loop Floral in Manhattan, Kansas, and a bail bonds agent for Gatsche's Bail Bonds by Karen. It's been On the Front Porch with Karen Medlin.